I wonder if they're going to finally release. I don't know how many times I have to badger Ubisoft's Twitter account and get blocked by them with different accounts that I've made. When are they going to finally release a naked skin for Monty?
Dude,
I want to play as Monty.
It would be so good.
And it's like, it's just, they have these skins that are like, they're kind of, they're like analogies for like the players that, the unique character's background and their strengths and their weaknesses, I forget some of them, but you get what I'm saying. Monty, what's better than him having that big shield, and then you turn around and you go to shoot him in the back, and there's a pair of butt cheeks right there. the man's butt naked back there. He's so vulnerable without his shield.
Hello, and welcome to Grass Touchers, the show where the three of us guys talk about video games, why we like them so much, despite having almost no time for them these days, this week especially. I am Jake.
I am Jared.
And I'm Greg.
Jared, kick us off, brother. What have you been playing lately?
Well, I have been playing, big surprise, I've been playing Ark. Now, this one is actually is a surprise to me. Because the past...
I'm going to try to listen.
The past 3 or 4 days, I've been logging in and going, fingers crossed, I hope I got rated. Because I want to delete this game from my hard drive. But it's tough because it's like, this is the first time on this game that I've ever been this powerful. I have multiple bases, I have very strong base defenses, and I have good base locations. So I haven't gotten rated yet. And my ability to create wealth and defend myself has increased as well. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Kind of coasting a little bit on the Ark mogul life here.
We will see. We will see how that pans out. Outside of that, I did download the A-Spec mod for Gran Turismo 2, which is sort of a modernization of... Well, not really even a modernization. Modders created like a robust addition to Gran Turismo 2 for the PS1, and it's a shot of nostalgia. It's a good time.
Interesting.
It still functions really well. It's a fun game. The racing's really fun. And
would you say it upgraded or updated, sort of like performance or graphics, or is it
updated
other stuff?
They've added all period correct cars to the game. It really is just they just fleshed out some things, and there probably are some small quality of life things. I never played the game as a kid, but as an adult, I think it's pretty cool, and I'm enjoying that. I'm playing that on my Retroid Pocket 4. It's a good time. Yeah,
nice.
And I'm also
Dag, how about you,
inventing
brother?
a new flavor. Of Doritos.
Sorry, what? Say it ain't so. Tell me more.
I'm in the lab. I'm creating a new flavor of Doritos. It is gummy worm ayahuasca, and it's designed to sort of reduce the population. So be looking for that on store shelves near you.
Excellent.
Let me check my Mayan calendar. Hold on.
Is that
sometime towards the end of the world, it'll be out there.
This is all one big plot to protect your bases in Ark. It's just kill off half of everyone in the world.
Right. Greg, sorry, go ahead.
That's awesome.
All good. Baldur's Gate 3.
Never heard of it.
Listening back to last week's episode, Jake mentioned... No, actually 2 weeks ago. 2 episodes ago. Jake mentioned that he was getting to the point where some of the frustrations were starting to set in with the game. And I reached that point about a week ago also. And honestly, it's ultimate grass toucher status. My solution to that is just to look it up on Google. Like, hey,
yeah, sure.
I'm struggling fighting this boss. Like, what can I do? And then there's a list of 20 different ways you can kill the boss. And I'm like, man, those are all like totally logical and make sense. And I could have just figured that out on my own because you can do anything in this game.
It's such a lateral thinking exercise. You realize when you think you've come up against this obstacle that's like, oh, I can't figure it out. What do I do? What do I do? You've been in this box that you created for yourself, and really you could have been doing this or this or this or this. And like, oh, I should have tried that myself. Why didn't I? It makes you feel stupid, really. But it's just conditioning, right? Video games have conditioned us to like use the box you've been given, and in this game, like there is no box. Like do whatever you want. So.
What's in the box? Yeah, that sort of thing. I was playing the other day, and there was a part where there were some enemies that, like, to progress the story where there were enemies that were like a little over leveled for me, and I tried to beat them several times. I spent about 45 minutes on this one fight, and I got frustrated, and I went on Google, and the first thing was just buy an invisibility potion and we'll have one of your characters sneak past them. And then when you get to the next area, your party will load in with the other characters.
Oh, nice.
And you don't even have to fight them at all. They're like, that group of enemies is meant as like a gear check. Like, are you strong enough? Are you leveled enough to like progress the game? So I went through the process of getting an invisibility potion, which are not super easy to find in the game. And when I did all that, I get past them, and I realize, like, those guys are there for a reason. I should probably level up before I do this thing in the first place.
You're just kicking the can down the road. You're still going to get your ass handed to you later.
Exactly. And I was yesterday years old when I realized the max level in the game is 12. So, which is like not very high.
It is?
Yeah, the max.
I don't think I knew that. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's like not very high. Because you level like 1 to 4 happens fast. That's been my experience. Like 1 to 4, like from fights and stuff, you get to like level 4 pretty quick, and then it's like just like a snail's pace, right? Okay. So, anyways, Baldur's Gate 3, super fun. And guys, that's really been it. I took advantage of the 2K sale. I don't know if it's still going on.
Oh yeah, you texted
me
about that.
And I picked up the BioShock Remastered Collection, which is BioShock 1 and 2, both the original games and remaster versions for like $12 for all that.
Right.
I picked up...
Have you played those? Did you play those when they came out?
No. I've never played BioShock 1 or 2 ever.
Oh, you're in for a treat. That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Are you hip to like the spoilers and the endings and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I've read all the stuff. I've watched so many Watch Mojo videos about biggest twist endings in video games of all time, and BioShock's always up there, right?
Right. You won't believe what happens next.
Yeah.
Number 2 will shock you.
But I picked up like Tiger Woods PGA 2K23. And also NBA 2K23 for like $9 a piece, which was awesome with the 2K sale. Those games are usually $50, $60. And Civilization 6 was 90% off. It was $9.99 or $6.99. It's crazy, $6.99.
Yeah, there you go. That's dude. If you ever want to just like have a cup of whiskey and you drink real slow and you just like nerd out on some history stuff for like hours on end, Civ is it. It's so fun. Like I really enjoy it. I'll play it with you at some point if you want. Maybe we can make a hang of it, because I used to play Civ like a lot. And me and my brother and some other folks that we would hang out with, we had Civ sessions long into the night. I don't think I've ever finished a game of Civ like completely, because it takes so long depending on who you're with,
so it's multiplayer, right?
Yeah, you can do multiplayer a couple of ways. I have Civ 5 on iPad, and you can like pass the iPad to take turns, and me and my wife will sit there and play Civ like on an airplane when we travel. But then when it comes to online play on computer, you just wait. It's a turn-based game, so at the end of your turn, you just hit I'm done. You wait for everybody else to be done, and then it does some CPU sort of actions, and then you do it again, and you just kind of take turns. What's challenging is if you have somebody who's new to the game, or if you have somebody who can't make up their mind, they're like taking forever and everybody's waiting for them. And but you sit there in Discord and doink around, and as we always say, it's about the hang anyway, right? So
it is. So.
Yeah, it's great. It's very much online, and I will totally check it out with you if you want.
Yeah. So that was it for me. I took advantage of the 2K sale. I also bought Lies of P, which is a Souls-like game that indie developer...
You're stocking up, dude. Dang.
I bought that like 2 weeks ago, but I didn't mention it on the pod. It's a Souls-like or a Soulsborne style game by an indie developer. So it's basically Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but it's kind of like you play as Pinocchio. That's like the whole gist of the game, right?
I've heard it rocks.
It's got rave reviews, so gonna play that. Armored Core 6 also picked that up, which we talked about last 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Have you dug into that one much? Have you just done sort of the intro?
I did the tutorial, and then life happened, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Life finds a way. And but yeah, just kind of been here's the thing. I've got spring break. I'm a public school teacher, so spring break is coming up in about a week.
Okay, word.
And I've got like 9 straight days of no responsibility other than my pregnant wife. And I'm stocking up on all the Vidya games, and I'm just going to go to town,
Nice, dude.
So what about you, Jake?
What's up? I have been I've been drug into PUBG more than once just because I get this itch to I think it mostly because this past Friday, having recorded with Tyler in last week's episode, we all set a date and a time and we're like, hey, let's all play Friday night. And you guys, I had such a blast. I'm so glad we did that. I think it was 3 a.m. my time. Like, it was stupid. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And we had one chicken dinner the whole time, but it was nice to have a 4-stack. That's what was so sort of mind-blowing, was that at a certain point we did have all 4. And I don't remember the last time I played with, an actual four-man squad. And so in the process of us doing that, I got a lot of loot drops, and there's this piece of gear. It's a very cool, tactical looking outfit that's super, super rare. And so now I'm grinding a little bit to get the credits to build it. It's stupid. It's cosmetic. It doesn't matter, but it looks rad. So gives me an excuse to play. So I keep doing the whole PUBG thing. I have played Baldur's Gate 1 time since we last spoke. Just kind of doinking around on that phase spider I was texting you about, Greg, when you were telling me that you did the spider matriarch thing. And, get a load of this. I have Skyrim, and I installed it on my Steam Deck as the new, sit on the couch while we're all just kind of not doing anything important game.
I saw you I saw you on Steam.
I know,
and
I was like,
Skyrim?
if anybody sees me playing Skyrim in the year of our Lord 2024, when Baldur's Gate 3 is a thing I own, I'm gonna have to answer for my crimes, but. I made a big stupid orc and just a 2-handed power move. Just every time I level up, I choose stamina, and I'm just cutting people down so good. And it's a fun game, man. It's no wonder it's been Game of the Year edition all the way down to the Texas Instruments TI-83. That thing is pretty fun. It's not like a playthrough where I'm gonna try to do all of the things, but that was fun. And I showed my son Max, and he thought it was really cool. And so yeah, I did a little bit of that. It was pretty fun. I think that's all I've done. Yeah. Speaking of games that I've played a lot, boys, I have some news. Our old flame, Rainbow Six Siege, has announced a massive update for year 9, and I'd like to take you through a few of the changes. Now, listener, I wouldn't blame you if you heard Rainbow Six Siege. I don't play competitive FPS games because I'm a grass toucher. What are you guys doing? You're grass touchers. Why would you bother? I don't know. That's the thing. Tom Clancy's name is on it, and even though he's rolling in his grave every time a new operator comes out with a 24th century gadget, I still just really love this game because it's so unique. It's played right. It's like chess, all the sort of things that you get to try to strategize with in the game. Played wrong, it's glorified Call of Duty, and it sucks, which is what it's been for, I'm going to say, the better part of a year now, depending on what rank you are and what your experience has been in Siege. It may have been very TDM, very not cool. So here's the gist of the changes. 30,000 foot view. It's going to slow things down. It's going to mess with sights and attachments and some balancing changes. And not just this person doesn't get the 2x scope anymore, and this one gun can only use this one sight now. It's a sweeping sort of universal change. The spoiler for that, I'll just tell you now, the 1.5x scope is just gone from the whole game. And then there's some buffs associated with each of the other scopes. They are doing a new operator. The new operator is Deimos, who's like the main villain in the current sort of like arc of the story. And he's an attacker that can literally like wall hacks, like scan somebody. But the catch is everybody sees his location and everybody sees that person's location. And he can only use his pistol when he's tracking them. Now his pistol is a revolver and it's very strong, but it's like pushing the 1v1 button.
Right.
You can only do it if that person has been spotted by a drone. You know how you can scan them and then their little icon shows up. So that's really interesting. We'll get into that. And then there's a big shield rework coming. And all of this is coming like day one of year 9. There's lots of other changes coming down the road, and we'll go over that. So here's the deal. Ubisoft unveils year 9 roadmap. Some tweaks. Number 1, there's only 2 new operators for the whole sort of year because they're doing so many other things. They're going to finish the reputation system, which I'm excited about, so you can actually understand, like, why did I go down? Why did I go up? Like, what's the actual result of what's going on? It's supposed to reduce the toxicity in the game. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it'll be more fleshed out. That's all they're sort of
life
saying
finds a
so
way,
far.
right? Like,
Right.
That game
Gamers.
is freaking Woodstock 99, dude. There's no stopping it.
Yeah, it is. That's a great way to put it. There's something called the Siege Cup. It's not going to be launched until the 3rd season, sort of the 3rd quarter of this new year of Siege. But it's a way of sort of tournamentizing the masses, you know, so you don't have to be on an esports team to play in a tournament setting, I think is the idea. The training modes, I don't know if you guys are tracking this. They changed the training mode. There's no longer like a T-Hunt sort of AI, like clearly objective kind of mode. There's these like drone dudes that look like crash test dummies, and they're adding some more stuff to that. Then we have, I'm not going to get into like the graphs of win deltas and pick rates. That's not important to me. I don't play the game enough to care about any of that. And I don't play at any of the ranks that they gather this data from. So I do not care. This is where I'll start in a moment. So here's the graphic, right? Here's the overall year 9 roadmap. There's a revamped shield mechanic, like I mentioned, the attachments and ADS stuff, and they're going to change the inventory menu to be called Locker, and that's where all of your skins and stuff are going to go. This will become important later in the year because they're going to unveil at a certain point a marketplace where like skins can be traded and sold. So that should be interesting. I don't know about you guys, but I got just a buttload of skins from, you know, playing this game for 9 years.
I bet you do, boy.
I do. Yeah. I knew it was going to pay off one day. My wife, she didn't listen, but I told her, honey, don't worry about it. All my money is tied up in Siege skins right now. They're updating some LMG stuff. Oh, Azami barricades. Get a load of this, Dad, because I know you've enjoyed playing Azami on certain maps.
oh, yeah.
Her barriers are no longer completely bulletproof. They're going to be set to 999 HP. So if you just mag dump, you're going to have to use like a lot of bullets, but you can, as an attacker, destroy Azami barricades from a distance with a sufficient number of bullets.
That's a good change. It is.
It's honestly really good because she was tough to deal with. So it still takes a resource of some kind, right? Ammo is still limited, obviously, but you have the added benefit of having some distance, you know, from her barricades. I think that's really cool. They're changing the repel motion. It's supposed to be faster and smoother. That animation. Gadget pickup, that's small, whatever. Projectile trajectory, this is cool. You'll be able to see an arc, a transparent arc in front of you. When you're about to throw something, you're going to see exactly where it's going to go. That's going to make grenades like extra deadly. I think that'll be interesting. But it'll also be, if you don't play the game a lot, a la Grass Touchers, that'll be really great so you're not wasting your utility. Like if you're Thatcher or you're throwing Impact EMP as another operator, you know, you won't just miss. Like, oops, I didn't throw that ace charge where I wanted or whatever. There's not going to be any new maps in the main game. They're just going to add new maps to the training mode. They're going to flesh that out. I think that's good, honestly, because there's the last like 4 maps I just like don't know that well. So let's get into here's what you should be excited about, and here's why we absolutely need to give this a shot. When it first rolls out, maybe not, right? Kind of let it cool down. But you've got the Kiba barrier. Like I said, 999 HP. Barriers are vulnerable to bullet damage, and it depends on the weapon, right? Whatever number of sort of damage points your weapon does, that's what it'll do to the shield. So they're soft in a sense, but let me read this better. to try and solve these problems, they tried several options where they were soft and bullets could just go through. But of course, that's not good because it's a soft wall that's indestructible. And like, what good is that? And then they talked about lifespan to make it just go away at a certain point, but they didn't do that either. So everything about the shield still works the same. It's just destructible. Small change to Finka, her weapon reload speed bonus that she would give with the surge, that's going away. And the shield thing that they're adding suppressive fire. So if you shoot a bunch of bullets at a shield player, it slows them down. That debuff will go away with her boost. So there's some synergy between Finka and shields. There's a bunch of weapon balancing that they're kind of tackling in like one big sweep by dividing weapons into classes: revolver, sniper rifle, slug, shotgun, and then like regular shotgun and regular handgun and assault rifle and SMG. So that'll sort of determine some things as weapons get grouped, which is interesting because some of those guns are really hybrids, like a SMG or assault rifle kind of gun. You could kind of make an argument for either one of those, but they've just sort of put them firmly into one category or the other. LMGs, you will move 10% slower with. So that's cool. I don't know, whatever. See how that pans out. ADS transition. This is what's going to slow the game down. Here's some of the best part. They've simplified the ADS like speed curve. You will be able to bring the gun up ADS fastest with handguns, revolvers, and shotguns. You'll be a medium speed going ADS with marksman rifles and sniper rifles, but the slowest ADS speed will go with machine pistols, submachine guns, assault rifles, LMGs, and slug shotguns, which are to me the guns that totally get the most like kills right now, right? When somebody is like MLG pro, bolo peeking, like whatever, they're always using rapid fire weapons because this game has one shot headshot, right?
Right.
Those are going to have the slowest speed when you go to actually aim. So if you try to peek and like quickly do stuff, you're actually going to be able to, have a penalty to that at least a little bit. Yeah, it's interesting. So the ADS speed overall has been reduced from idle or walking. If you're walking or just standing there, everything has a reduced ADS speed. But if you are sprinting, right? See, if you're sprinting, the ADS speed has a penalty to it. But everything else, if you're only walking or if you're only standing still, you'll have a slightly faster ADS speed. So there's some more nerd stuff there. Skipping right past that, for the sights, the iron sight buffs your ADS speed. And it's not even a hollow or anything. Literally just iron sights. Every gun has a different iron sight. If you really want that ADS speed buffed, then you're going to have to switch around to different weapons and find an iron sight you don't hate. If you have a non-magnifying sight, you're going to get a smaller ADS speed bonus, 5%, whereas the other one's 10. And then the actual magnified ones, they are going to have 0 sort of ADS speed bonus. And every single attacker gets a 2.5 ACOG, which is cool. So like Ash has her ACOG back. All these operators that they were trying to balance by taking away sights, sort of onesie twosie every season. And it was like, what are we doing here? This is like, you're just going to have to reverse this change later or whatever. So they got rid of the 1.5 completely, and they just gave the 2.5 to all the attackers. Defenders, there's a bunch of, I won't go over them all, but there's a bunch of guns and a bunch of defenders that will also have the 2.5. Generally, it's being dished out more liberally, including one of my favorites, Wamai. I'm pretty dirty with that MP5K, and having an ACOG on it is going to be sweet. I'm really looking forward to that. Nice. Among other guns that are also very good. And then the telescoping, the 3.5, highest magnification is only available for attackers on their DMRs. So I think that's a really welcome change. Any thoughts on any of this so far? Does this sound like a welcome change to you guys?
I'm a Rainbow Six Siege hater, and I think I stand by that with some of the seasons that I've endured with that game, because we used to play that game a lot.
Yeah.
But it's always one that I will go back and play with you guys because for all its faults, it makes team play really rewarding when you can collaborate well, and it's a tight experience. It's super tight. It handles very well.
Exactly.
And I would be excited to check all this new stuff out with you guys.
Yeah, and this is, we're only like halfway through the list, but there's enough changes across the board. Lots of little stuff, lots of big stuff. Like, it's just, I think it's going to feel pretty different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on what I think. So, Greg, what do you think so far? Sound interesting?
Yeah, really interesting, because I will say that the thing that made me want to play Siege, number one, was getting a desktop computer that could run it in Ultra, right?
Right.
If I'm being honest. But number two was that my old pal Jake was just obsessed with the game, loved it.
I just really was.
And still is, because here we are, and he's reading us patch notes on our podcast, right? And that's and the thing to me that could potentially make Siege different again is getting back to its tactical roots, slowing the game down, making it way more tactical. When I used to look at photos of Siege, like just screen caps, right? And the lighting inside was so good. And they totally just eliminated lighting from the game. Straight up. Just like the lighting in the game does not, like there's not.
It is much more flat now.
It's just a flat looking game. And you go back and you look at these photos from like 2016, and you're actually like in the dark in rooms, and there's like lamps, and like it's actually looks strategic, and
it made flashbangs more dramatic. I was hoping they would add like weapon mounted flashlights at some point. Like it was very, very different.
Yeah, and that was kind of what attracted me to the game, was this idea of being strategic. And when I first started playing the game with Jake in winter of 2020, so a little over 3 years ago, it felt a lot more strategic than it does now.
Right.
Every time I play, I have fun because it's the hang, right? Like we're having fun together,
yep.
and that's what it's about more than anything. With any game really that I play with friends, right? It's more about the hang. But I would totally get back into the game on a regular basis if it felt slower, more strategic, and less like I have to not be a grass toucher to enjoy the game. Because I don't like hopping. Here's what I don't like. I don't like hopping into a game, getting spawn peaked instantly. I hate that. Ugh. That's just not fun. The games are supposed to be fun. I'm sorry to break the news to people out there. Games are supposed to be fun.
Right.
They're called games. And
yeah.
And it's supposed to be enjoyable. And guess what? Getting spawn peaked on bank, for 3 rounds in a row, it's just not fun. And so I hate getting spawn peaked. I hate setting up this like super strategic strategy and talking with my teammates and doing all this stuff, and then the other team just rushes in and just no scopes the entire team. Like I hate that. It's not fun. It's not fun. And nothing would make me happier in my life other than seeing my child be born than
right, real life excluded, right?
Then to see Siege like full stop go back to its roots and be a strategic shooter. That would just be super cool. And I hope that these are steps in the right direction. But my gut reaction is that the neckbeards, the streamers, they're going to hate most of these changes because they can't play the game that they're used to playing and dominating and making money for the past 2 or 3 years. And Ubisoft is just going to cater to them because, as you can see by the analytics, all the data that Jake, he showed us earlier on the screen, I know listeners you can't see, but it's all based off of high rank play, which is not the vast majority of players, right?
That's true. That's true.
They're getting their data from not a grass toucher, right?
Right.
They're very clearly not catering to the average player, but I hope this is a good step in the right direction, and I have faith. If Jake thinks it's a good thing, I'm on board. I'll listen, and that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, I've got good news. There's more things that will contribute to the trickle down Siegeonomics, right? You're right that the data is being gathered from way up there, and I've literally never been up there. But the changes, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The guys up there, they might complain about it at first, but whatever, what are you going to do? The game's changing, and there's people that I've been not in touch with, but people whose opinions I've been listening to for a while, right? The Macy J's of the world, GGE, right? Gregor's gaming experience.
Macy Gray.
Yeah, dude, Macy Gray.
Someone once told me to breach that window.
That's who they should have got to voice Clash, dude. It was Macy Gray.
Oh, that was great.
yeah, you see it. Yeah, London and everything. So some more insignificant changes. There's some reticle shifting they're doing. I think this is kind of whack because it's just going to throw people off at first. They'll get used to it like they'll get used to anything else. But they're increasing the middle dot size on certain like red dots and then reducing middle dot size on other red dots. I don't know. Whatever. Take it or leave it. Don't really care. We've already gone over the other scope changes. The laser is not going to increase your hip fire anymore. It's going to only buff your ADS speed, which is, that's kind of the crux of, are we slowing the game down or not? You're going to have to be equipping a laser, which can't go on every gun, by the way, if you want that ADS 10% bonus. The angled grip no longer boosts ADS speed. It instead increases your weapon reload speed, which is interesting. They have a none option, which is now called horizontal grip. It's not literally like an M249 like horizontal grip. It's a like you're just grabbing the gun. In the gun world, that's called the C clamp, right? Because you make like a C with your hand and then you grab the gun this way. That's just going to add a small movement speed, 5% movement speed, and then a vertical grip is still going to improve your vertical recoil, but only by 20% instead of 25. So if you are a lights out shooter, regardless of whether there's a vertical grip, you're probably going to go with the angled grip to like have some sort of buff of some kind. Maybe the horizontal because you want to go slightly faster than everyone else. But 5% movement speed bonus isn't going to make it so that you can rush in any faster, really. It's just you're going to feel like you can take corners a little faster. That's kind of as good as it gets. That's the only way to increase your kind of quick peeking. So here's the shield stuff. This is sick, right? Everybody that gets a ballistic shield keeps it in front of them while they're sprinting, like Blitz can. An operator equipped with a ballistic shield can push through a barricade without having to hit them twice. They can just barge right through, not from a rappel, but on foot. Okay. Jared, I thought of you as soon as I saw these shield changes because you're our Monty, and this could be pretty rad.
They're
Check
buffing
it out, right?
the shields, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, yeah, and there's some counters, but here's what they're doing with shields to make them less situational, right? There's some times where a shield is just lights out amazing, and there's other times where a shield is like, what are you doing, bro? So you can no longer hip fire with a shield in front of you. Okay. You can throw a grenade from around the side, or at least that's coming or something. They talked about that. You will have reduced accuracy when you go to unequip the shield, right? So you can't like unequip the shield and immediately fire like in a straight line. During the ADS animation, the weapon won't shoot until it's pointing forward. I guess they made it so that even though the animation hasn't finished, you can still shoot. Oh, so they're fixing that. Make it more deliberate. The ADS time has been reduced to half a second walking and 0.55 seconds if you're sprinting. They used to be 0.6 seconds. This is the kind of stuff that they can just leave out. Like, just let me find out what it feels like. I know it's going to feel the littlest, tiniest bit different, but this is like such a small change. Yeah. The reload animation is now performed behind the shield. Oh. You used to have to like turn because your operator would take the shield and put it on like their left shoulder, and you had to like turn so that you could reload and then turn back. Right. You no longer have to do that, and reload is triggered automatically. As soon as you run out of bullets, your operator will just go ahead and reload behind the shield. New melee animation, it now deals pushback and 65 HP. It used to just down people immediately every time, so there's a counter, right? The shield isn't as win button if they get in. Do you?
Does it say anything about exposing? Do you no longer expose yourself when you melee, or do you still like?
I'm not sure. That'll be interesting. I'd love to see the animation. I'm not sure. It doesn't really say a specific. I mean, I guess there'll just be a gameplay preview at some point, right? Showing like what specifically the shield animation looks like. If you bash directly in front of you, I think that would be really good because you are less exposed. Whereas if you kind of one arm like turn, you're exposing yourself more. So it'll deal pushback, which puts them on their back, right? You know how Oryx can rush a shield and knock them down on their back? It does that. It does like a pushback thing. So there it is. You can throw a gadget from behind the shield, but it's coming in a later update. The gadget trigger animation, also from behind a shield. So if you're fuse, you can put the shield to the side, put the fuse charge, put your shield back up, and trigger it from behind a shield. And then, not that you ever play hostage mode, but the ballistic shield will stay equipped if you were escorting a hostage. And if you touch fire, it will break. It will do a guard break on the shield with 40% intensity, same as electricity, because there's a lot of Goyo and Capitao and anybody else that's bringing fire into the picture. They can. Tachanka becomes a good. Yeah, Jaboya, dude. It's an old cut. Yeah. I think of Tachanka, who will now be a great counter to shields. There's not a lot of reasons to bring Tachanka, so there's one. Here's the free look. You can now free look as a shield player. So you can like walk up to a door, kind of look to the side, check for Capcan trap.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, and then here's suppressive fire. So if a shield operator is charging down the hallway at you and you shoot him in the shield, not only do your bullets, hit the plexiglass of the shield and create like a visual disturbance, but it will slow them down. Up to 40 bullets will sort of it caps off at 40 bullets, and then as long as you hit them at least 10 times, that's when it triggers the suppressive fire, like slow them down. They have some more stats here about you can't sprint if you're suppressed, your visibility is reduced. It's a sort of like Battlefield. I don't know if you guys remember Battlefield 3, I think it was, had a suppressive fire mechanic for LMGs that was really cool. So yeah, they've reimagined the ballistic shields a little bit. I think it's going to be pretty cool. The principles of the game that have led to this shield change, I think, are really good. There's just two. Here's what they say. Number one, to be lethal with a gun, you need to be vulnerable, right? Fair and balanced. I think that makes sense. Right. Number two, actions from players' direct input should not be randomized. They need to be deliberate and consistent and reliable. That feels really good. I think if they keep those two things in mind moving forward, that will be a welcome change. All the shield stuff will just make a lot more sense. That's why they remove the hip fire and that kind of stuff. LMG's weapon recoil are all going to decrease. That's the gist of that. The first kick, the vertical recoil, the lateral recoil, all of it is just kind of going down. It doesn't say by what percentage, but it's going to decrease. And the recoil is stable for longer if you're doing a sustained fire. So you're actually going to be more accurate than you used to be over time with all the LMGs. I would love to see LMGs come into play in such a way that they become like this whole suppressive fire mechanic. Like, let me use the LMG for the purpose that it was intended. I think that's going to be really cool. So there's all those really specific LMG tweaks. Not going to get into the details, but I think it's going to be pretty cool.
I wonder if they're going to finally release, I don't know how many times I have to badger Ubisoft's Twitter account and get blocked by them with different accounts that I've made. When are they going to finally release a naked skin for Monty?
Dude,
I want to play as Monty.
It would be so good.
And it's like, it's just, they have these skins that are like, they're kind of, they're like analogies for like the players that, the unique character's background and their strengths and their weaknesses, I forget some of them, but you get what I'm saying. Monty, what's better than him having that big shield, and then you turn around and you go to shoot him in the back, and there's a pair of butt cheeks right there. the man's butt naked back there. He's so vulnerable without his shield.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. You know what the name of that skin needs to be?
What?
Skin.
Full Monty.
Full Monty, baby. That's right.
Or skin. Oh, that would be better. Skin. The skin. You got that skin? Yeah.
But dude, but you know what they need to do is if they're gonna allow you to be the full Monty or the skin is like, if you choose that skin when you put your shield away and you sprint, it's like a 500% sprinting speed bonus. Like
make him like wicked fast.
Yeah, give him the Liam Neeson too, the giant Liam Neeson. From that, you guys ever seen that GIF of Liam Neeson in that movie? He's running naked and he's just got a monster. It's just bouncing around. Get the gravity engine going for that, dude.
I gotta say, Jared, I don't think you and I have the same YouTube algorithm. I don't know what you've been watching, but I have not seen whatever you're talking about.
I know you've seen that, man.
No. So thank you for indulging with me in a little bit of Siege nerd stuff. I am excited about it. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be good. I'm gonna try not to hype it up too much, but I am pretty stoked. It's gonna be a good excuse to boot that game back up, and hopefully it goes well. The original sort of launch date, I'm sure that'll be a little rocky. I'm not gonna have my hopes so high as to think Ubisoft can roll out a major patch with no issues. Right. But give it a few days, give it a week. I'll be checking it out. So
very good. That sounds sick, dude. I'll play that with you. I mean, you guys know I have this laptop and I have like a smaller SSD drive, so my gaming space is limited. But,
Right.
Hopefully by that
And that
point,
is a big install. Unless they're going to change that at all, it is still a big install.
It's a big install. So hopefully by that point we'll be furious and have so much ire for PUBG that I can just delete that and we can move on to Rainbow Six and rage on that.
Yeah. That's the Ubisoft. If you're listening to us, incredibly influential podcasters, this is your task. Should you accept it? Is to make Siege better and more attractive to play than PUBG right now? Because right now it's not.
Right. And release Naked Monty.
Also, Full Monty. Where are we at? Give me that skin.
It's about time we get that skin.
Delete the Mozzie Pizza skin.
Oh, please delete the Mozzie Pizza.
Swap out the Rick and Morty skins, okay? And give me something rad. Give me that full Monty. Get those cheeks clapped.
Dude, I was going to say, speaking of getting your cheeks clapped, didn't that guy get his cheeks clapped by the court of public opinion? Maybe even the what's his name?
Justin Roiland?
Yeah.
I think there was something that like he was being taken to court for something that happened a couple years before that, and then he put up a big sort of post that was like, none of these allegations are true, blah blah blah. I wasn't tracking it after that. I don't really care about that guy, but there was something. There was a little something going on with that guy.
That guy sucks, dude. I think so. Get rid of him and put Naked Monty in there, please. Thank you, Ubisoft.
Hey, Dag, tell me about this. I'm looking at the notes here. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth dropping tomorrow, or as the listener listens to this, it'll be a few days prior. What is up with this?
Yeah, February 29th release date. So I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. The first Final Fantasy game I ever played when I was a kid was Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. And I was actually introduced to the game because one of my best friends growing up had the PC port of the game. So the game had been out for a few years by the time I actually got it for myself because he had a PC port. And anyone who plays Final Fantasy games on a regular basis, pretty much everyone will universally tell you the combat in the games is usually good, right? Like, it started out in the early Final Fantasy games, it was turn-based, completely turn-based, and now it's morphed into more of a Kingdom Hearts style, kind of a hack and slash with some, you can kind of pause the combat and issue some commands sort of thing, right?
Okay.
So people like the combat, but most people will tell you that the reason people play the game, any Final Fantasy game, is the story. Right, the stories are all different. Every Final Fantasy game is a self-contained story. Some of them are medieval setting, like the most recent mainline game that came out was Final Fantasy 16 last year, and that's back to more of a medieval setting, which the original few games were. But Final Fantasy 7, which I fell in love with, is a futuristic, near future steampunk sort of game, right? Like it's futuristic technology, cars and planes and trains and, guns and all the stuff are in that game. But there's also magic and all the trappings of a fantasy game, right? Okay. The story is very unique. It's basically you're in a band of eco-terrorists who are like blowing up these reactors to like save the planet. It's very like, I don't know, very elaborate, I guess. I don't know, but
Greenpeace on steroids.
It's super cool. It's a very cool concept, and it gets super super nerdy sci-fi. It goes down the rabbit hole in terms of the plot. Final Fantasy VII is maybe my favorite game ever made. That and like Super Metroid, it's up there because I just love the story. It gets so deep, and so SquareSoft. Well, what used to be SquareSoft is now Square Enix, right?
That's right. Right.
They decided back in like 2014 to remake the game. Well, what happened is they decided the original game is so massive. And the original game, the backgrounds were pre-drawn, pre-rendered, right? So they had to release it. And we've talked about this a little bit, several episodes
I was going to say, I remember this now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. That game was able to be massive because the backgrounds were hand-drawn, so a lot of the assets were not being rendered real-time, right? So they could make this massive, sprawling story, on the PlayStation 1. Well, they figured out even with modern technology to really remake the game in its entirety, it was going to have to be in three installments, right? So the first one, Final Fantasy VII Remake, is actually only the first 5 hours of the original game. Final Fantasy VII, like the first 5 hours, the first city you're in, that's the entire Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is like a 50-hour game. They took 5 hours and they turned it into 50 hours.
Did they just add more content and like
crazy amounts of content, and everything's fully rendered 3D, and so many areas you could not explore in the original game in the city are there, and what was a 10-minute side quest in the original game is now a full hour-long thing, right? So part 2 is coming out tomorrow. Part 2 is like the bulk of the original Final Fantasy VII game, the middle, kind of 2/3 of the original game.
Right.
And I'm so excited, man. It's a PS5 exclusive, and the reviews are all really, really good. Everyone says it's awesome. You know?
Do you have a PS5?
No, but the reason I'm excited is because it's going to be ported to PC.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I'm excited just to watch videos of people play this game, because
sure,
this is one of those games that forever people have been saying, man, if Final Fantasy VII was ever re-released with like modern graphics, it would just be a masterpiece. It'd be amazing, blah, blah, all that stuff.
Right.
And it's finally happening in 3 parts. And part 1 came out in 2020, April 2020, right? 4 years later, we're now at part 2.
That's a wild, yeah.
And I think they said 2028 is going to be when part 3 comes out.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's going to be like, it's like an 8-year thing, where what's actually really, they started developing part 1 in 2014. So,
right.
We're talking a 14-year project to get all 3 games
That's
released.
insane. Wow.
And I'm just excited, man.
For sure.
It was one of those first games that really hooked me to video games as a kid. And I think Square Enix, especially back when they were Squaresoft, they used to be a very innovative company. In the 90s, Squaresoft was like the RPG company. That was it. It was like, that was it. And they used to be owned, or they used to work with Nintendo, right? Like Squaresoft used to Final Fantasy games, like Final Fantasy VI came out on Super Nintendo, not PlayStation, right? And so, anyways, I'm stoked about it. I know you guys are not Final Fantasy people, but I'm sure there are people out there, listeners we have, that are.
For sure, dude. And as we've said before, I can absolutely sort of vicariously enjoy things through your experience. If you dig it and it's a good product, then like, freak yeah, let's go.
My only issue,
Jared, have you played any of these?
I've here and there. I've never actually completed one of these all the way through. My issue though is, when are they going to finally call? I'm going to turn the tone here. When are they going to finally call these guys out? They have been lying to us since the first one released.
It's not the Final Fantasy.
They said, here's Final Fantasy. I was like, you know what? All right, I'll get it. It's the last one. I'm going to take it home. Played it, beat it. 3 years later, what is this? What do I see on the shelf? Dadgum Final Fantasy 2. And I said, all right, you know what? The humans, they make mistakes. I'm going to get this. It's the last one.
They
sure
forgot.
enough.
It's okay. I get it.
Yeah. And I'm
that's actually what the game The Finals is. It's like a Final Fantasy game, but it's a first-person shooter, right? No.
Yeah. That's why I play
okay.
it, because it's the last one.
I will say this. I will say one thing that's cool that we talked about remakes a few episodes ago, right?
Right.
And remakes are a fad right now. They're a total fad.
Oh, huge.
One thing that I respect about the Final Fantasy VII remake, and now Rebirth, which is part 2 of the remake series of that game, is that the team is the same team that made the original game. It's like the same.
Wow.
Same guy who helped write the story. A lot of the same guys who did all the graphics and assets and stuff for the original game. And there are of course new people involved, obviously.
Sure.
But it's cool.
Boy, I tell you, that helps explain the delay. Can you imagine, like, if you said to me, just to put it in sort of like in my shoes for a second, if you said to me, Jake, at UNCG, the pep band from the year 2011 was so slamming, and we've got this game coming up against fill in the blank Dogwater D2 team, and we were thinking,
let's call them Western Carolina University.
Yeah, maybe Western Carolina, for no reason. We were thinking, what if we got the band back together, literally, and let's go track down everybody that played in the pep band at UNCG D2 basketball school in the year 2011.
Right.
And be like, can you give me a year's notice? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't know how to track those people down. Do they even play anymore? Like, that would be wild. And that's a huge testament to their dedication of trying to make the game as good as they can and faithful to the original. Another way I would put it in my shoes is like, you said it's one of your favorite games ever, right? Really hooked you. For me, that would be KOTOR. Can you imagine if they made a modern, gotta have a 3080 or better to run it, like crazy revamped adaptation of Knights of the Old Republic, but they released it like by planet. So it was like Knights of the Old Republic, Terrace. And then it was like, that's a whole game. And they fleshed it out and you can go everywhere. And Terrace is a huge city. And then they released 3 years later, Knights of the Old Republic, Kashyyyk. And now that's a whole planet. And you do it, and it's a whole planet. And then they did, Manan, and then they did Korriban, and then they did the Starforge. And I was like, oh, like that would be incredible. I would die. Yeah. I mean, not to mention it would take forever, but that's very cool that they're doing. I didn't know anything about the process there. I was like, what are they remaking it again 4 years later? But that makes sense now that they're doing it in big chunks and adding so much more to it. Well,
that was actually, it's funny you say that. It's actually one of these very small complaints about the first remake. So which was called Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? It wasn't even called Part 1, but it's Part 1. One of the small complaints that people had is that they did take what was really like a 5-hour portion and they stretched it out so far that there are small parts of that game where you're kind of like, okay, let's move on.
Right.
Like they really stretch this one out here. Like there are moments, and they're very brief, but there are moments in that game where you're like, okay, they didn't need to include this side quest where you catch stray cats in the street and turn them back, return them to their owners. That's a literal side quest in that game.
Yeah. Especially if you played the original and you remember that stuff, you're like, why did they expand on this part? I didn't need this again. Well, that's great, man. We'll stay tuned for what your impressions of watching the gameplay and stuff are. Hey, real quick before we wrap it on up here, I just want to make a quick plug for Dune, baby, for Dune 2. It's coming out. When the listener is hearing this, it will have already been out. I'm not seeing it this first weekend that it's coming out, but I am going to see it, I think, the following weekend on like Saturday maybe. I don't know if you guys are tracking, but Dune 2 has replaced Shawshank Redemption as the highest rated movie ever.
Really?
96%. And this is just critics so far that have weighed in, right? Not the audience. But it has hit 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. And this thing is, I'm trying so hard, okay, to not like overhype it in my head. Because I'll be crestfallen. I'll be so sad if this movie is like no good. But evidently that's not a concern. Evidently everybody digs it. Evidently it's just across the board slapping.
Nice.
So if you don't have a plan already to watch Dune 2, make sure you watch it. If you haven't seen the first one, it's on Netflix. You got to check it out. I'm hearing nothing but the best, and I will
sizzling reports.
That's right. I will report back in the future with my thoughts on the Duneverse there.
What scares me about that though is that critics are bought and sold these days. They do it with video games. I wonder if they're doing it with movies. I would bet that they are. Some things are so big and they put so much money in them that they're too big to fail, and they're like,
you're right. And that's the thing. This is my fear. I totally agree.
Right,
There's a 4% there that didn't, you know what I mean? 96 is not 100. Like, is that the 4% of guys that are not paid off? Like, I wonder. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The first one was so good. I can't imagine the second one sucks.
No, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
I'm pretty stoked.
I'm excited too. I'm probably going to blow up my wedding and go see that instead.
That's the honeymoon plan, right? Didn't we say that? You guys gotta go see that.
You guys would be really proud. My wife, who is not a sci-fi aficionado at all, we started watching. I finally convinced her last night to start watching Dune with me, and she loves it. And then before we recorded tonight, we watched the second hour of it, and we just so good.
Nice.
So good.
I knew that was going to be a wide hit and not a hit with just like people like me, because my wife enjoyed it as well. And I say that not disparagingly, but just to cast light on like how good of a movie it is, just around the board. Like it is not good because it has fan service. It's not good because the visuals are insane. It's not just good because such and such actor is in it. Everything is working. Right. Everything works in that movie. The cinematography, yes, the visuals are incredible, but there's techniques and practical effects and performances that are just,
good movie
stupid.
Is good movie.
That's right. Yeah, I know it's not exactly a hot take.
No, it's true.
One might say that it's the Baldur's Gate 3 of the film universe.
Well, one might say that, but another might not. You know what I'm saying? Because some people.
Or is it the Armored Core 6 of the movie? Yeah.
Well,
or is it the Tarka? No, never mind.
No, whoa.
Hey, that's a 4-letter word around these parts.
Yeah, right? Chief.
Yeah. You know what this makes me think of, fellas? I think by the end of 2024, we're going to need to have a Game of the Year discussion.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen for sure. Well, folks, I think that will do it. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you guys following on Instagram, following on Spotify, subscribing or what have you. Really appreciate the interaction and the likes and the comments. Little announcement here. We're going to launch a YouTube channel. We're going to upload some clips, boy. I've been editing a few things here and there in my spare time. It's not going to be a regular upload schedule. Don't get too excited. But we are going to have a little bit of a YouTube channel kind of experience for you to enjoy. We have one episode of a video podcast that is sitting in my OneDrive that I forget what episode, but I recorded, like I captured the Discord like video feed. So we may upload any number of things there. So stay tuned. We will announce that on Instagram when it's ready and have a couple of videos up for you to check out. Thank you, as always, for interacting and spreading the good word of the grass touching movement. Normalize grass touching. It's normal. You're supposed to have a life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
go off.
That's all. That's all I have to say. Thanks again, folks. And don't forget, get out there and touch you some